And to accept for the Christensen family, please welcome to the stage Toby Christensen.
I'm very humbled and I'm honored to be here tonight. Really appreciate you guys letting my father be a part of this fraternity. It means a lot to me and to my family. It really does. Thank you to Mr. Okoye. A couple months ago, I get a phone call from the Raiders, and a couple of the secretaries that I've known for a long time said, "Hey, Toby, Christian Okoye wants your phone number. Are you okay if we give it to him?" And I said, "The Nigerian Nightmare wants to talk to me? Yeah, give him my number. There's a lot worse people than him in my phone." And he called me to let me know that my father was being inducted into this Hall of Fame, and it's a neat experience for our family to be here and to be a part of this. About a week ago, I was fortunate enough to be a part of a charity event for Second Chance for Youth, and as part of this event, there were some former NFL greats that were in attendance, and at the end of the evening, I was lucky enough to be in the presence of two of the greatest defensive backs who ever lived, and Ronnie Lott and Mike Haynes. And it was pretty neat for me to be there chatting with them at the end of the night. And as a former receiver myself, you know, I got excited to talk to him, and I said to him, I can only imagine how intimidating it would be for a wide receiver to look across the line of scrimmage and see Mike Haynes in man coverage with Ronnie Lott helping over the top. Man, that would be intimidating. And Mike Haynes and Ronnie, they chuckled. He laughed for a second, and Mike looks at me and he goes, "You'd have no chance, son." And then Mike smiled and he looked off into the sky as he was thinking, and he goes, "But your dad would find a way." He said, even if we knew what route he was running, he would change direction mid-play to find the hole, and he would expect Plunkett to know where he was going. And I'll be darned if Jim Plunkett always seemed to know where he was going. He always seemed to find a way. And that was what my dad was about. He wasn't the fastest guy, and he wasn't the strongest guy, but he always seemed to find a way. And oftentimes, he was the smartest guy on the field. Oftentimes, he was the hardest worker. And I can't do a better job than two Hall of Fame defensive backs talking about how he was as a player. I think that says enough about his ability. But I will tell you that as a person, I have a unique perspective on it. About 30 years ago, I was about 9 years old, I'd say 8 or 9 years old, and there was a function just like this. And my father brought me along with him. It was the Sports Spectacular, Cedar Sinai. It benefits Cedar Sinai Hospital. I think they still hold that every year. And as a kid, this was better than Christmas for me. As a sports enthusiast, I walked into this reception area, and I look around, and I see Don Drysdale, and I see Willie Mays, and I see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I see Magic Johnson, and I see Marcus Allen, and I see Tony Gwynn, and I see Darryl Strawberry, and this is better than Christmas for me. I'm running around with my little book, and I'm getting autographs, and I'm going from guy to guy. I'm just so excited that evening. And then I look up, and it's neat that Mr. Gray just talked about Julius Erving, because I wanted to tell this story about him. I look up, and I see Dr. J, and I was thrilled. I was like, there's Dr. J, and he was talking to somebody, but I was 9 years old, so what do I care, right? I didn't know a whole lot about social protocol at the time, and I run up to him, and he's a lot taller than me, and I grab on his pant leg, and I said, Dr. J, can you sign my book for me? And as gracious as could be, he turns and looks at me and says, absolutely. And he takes my book, and he signs it, and just then there was a photographer there, just like there are here tonight, and the photographer said, hey, Mr. Erving, can we get a picture with you too? And he says, sure. I mean, he couldn't have been kinder. And he gets down on a knee, and this is a man with a lot of tread on his tires in a nice suit who gets down on a knee next to a 9-year-old kid who was very impolite at the time and puts his arms around me, and he smiles for a picture. And I had to be grinning ear from ear because here I am with Dr. J, one of my favorite basketball players, and he's on a knee with his arm around me, and I'm smiling ear to ear. This is fantastic. And I said, you're one of my favorite basketball players. I probably said some stupid things like that. I don't know. And he goes, well, that's great, son. Do you like basketball? He started asking me about me, and I lit up. I said, yeah, I love basketball. I really do. And as we're finished taking the picture, he shakes my hand, and I still remember to this day because I don't have big hands, and his hands were just monstrous. And I remembered, and as I looked up, I see my father, and he's got tears going down his face. And as a kid, I was so embarrassed. I said, Dad, what are you embarrassing me in front of these guys? And I walk up to him, and I'm like, I felt like I had to pull him aside. Dad, I need to talk to you. And he says, you won't understand what it means to me as a father until you're a father yourself, to see someone as great as him treat my son that way. That means a lot to me. And I wasn't a father at the time. I'm now a father of 4. In fact, Todd's 2 oldest grandsons are here today, and I want them to know what a great person he was. I saw my father take that example from Dr. J, and I saw him do the same thing to the lives of so many other people. I got to tag along with him to so many different events for athletes, for youth, for Children's Miracle Network, and Special Olympics. And I remember going to the Special Olympics and just being so impressed with how my father treated everybody. He wasn't there for photo opportunities or to add followers to a social media page. He was there for the kids. And I remember him teaching me that these kids were children of our Heavenly Father, just like he was, and he was no better than them. And I saw him go to the end of the finish line while a lot of the other people were there for different reasons. He was there for the kids, and he'd stand at the end, and it was hard for me to understand because some of these kids would drool, and some of them didn't smell great, and it was hard for me to do what he did. And he'd stand at the finish line as those kids ran their hearts out, and they'd get to the end, and he would hug them. And I could see their parents crying the way my dad did when Dr. J put his arm around me, and their parents were so thrilled that Todd was making them feel as special as he did. And I always remember that. And when he passed away, I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of messages that I received talking about what a difference he'd made in the lives of these people I didn't know that found me on Facebook or through text messages or emails or whatever it was. And story after story about how your dad made me want to be a better person, how your dad made me a Raider, how your dad sang to my father in a hospital before he died, how your dad spent hour after hour reading to my dad before he passed away with cancer. And it was neat for me to see this, and it made me want to be a better person. I obviously didn't get his height. I didn't get his shoulders. I didn't get his grasp of the English language as famous as he was well known for. I didn't get his bushy mustache or his curly mullet either. But none of that matters to me. What I hope that I can take from him is his ability to bring joy into the lives of other people. And I think you guys are very lucky. A lot of you people that are great athletes, you have the ability, and actually everybody in here has the ability to bring joy into the lives of those around them. And he was good at that. And I hope that I can, of the many qualities that he had, I hope that I can be like that I can make somebody's life better the way he did and the way Dr. J did for me so many years ago. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out his wife. This is my mom. She's filming me. Sorry. My father had a huge personality. Everybody knew he was out there. But this was the lady behind the scenes that made everything happen. This is my mom. She raised 4 boys. She let him be who he was. She let him travel. She let him be the star, and she was in the background taking care of things at home. I'm extremely grateful for both my parents. I'm thankful to all you guys for being here, for letting him be a part of this, for letting me come up here and tell you a little bit about my dad, who's so special to me. And if you can take anything from this, it's just try to be a little bit better to the people around you, make their lives a little bit better. Thank you to the California Sports Hall of Fame for letting us be here. Thank you to Mr. Okoye, and God bless.
Toby, that was so nice. You did such a nice job of describing your dad. If you could give us one more thing, four boys. Dad and 4 boys. Just tell me what it was like. What was your dad like as a dad in the house with 4 boys?
Oh, we had a very competitive household. 4 boys, no girls, a dad. My wife will tell you when we got married, I didn't know a whole lot about women. I just didn't. I mean, I could tell you some funny stories about my father. He was a great father. He was competitive. He wanted us to work hard. He was really big into teaching us that what you do in your private moments are what's going to make you who you are. He said the team aspect is fantastic, but you make or break yourself when you're in those private moments and it's just you and it's your chance to work. And that's what he taught us. I mean, he was big into hard work and gratitude. Those were 2 things that were huge in our family.
How'd he keep you guys in line when you got a little out of line?
I guess since he passed away, I can share some of these stories.
I have 6 brothers. I know what a bunch of boys in the house is like.
No, I mean, he was scary. He was intimidating. I mean, I don't know. Am I allowed to tell any stories, Mom? Let's just say it wasn't very hard. If Mom said, hey, I'm going to call Dad, we got in line.
That's it, right?
That was
a good mom. She stood behind your dad on that one. I'm going to call Dad, and that would be it. If you could tell me one story about your dad, the story that you take with you everywhere, the way you see your father, the way you feel your father in your heart, what's that story?
Oh man, you guys should have prepped me for these questions. There's so many great stories about my father. I'll tell you, something that was neat for me was we went to another banquet, as I've talked about, and Snoop Dogg was there. And as a kid, you know, I grew up in the 90s, and Snoop Dogg was the coolest guy that's ever lived, right? He just walked around and he was smooth, and everything he said was cool, and I was like, you know, and Snoop Dogg was at this banquet, and I'm with my dad and my family, and I'm like, oh, can we meet Snoop Dogg? Can we meet Snoop Dogg? And you know, as you get older, your parents are less cool, right? Snoop Dogg starts walking towards us, and he grabs his cousin, and he starts shaking him like a little kid. He goes, do you know who that is? And he said, that's the OG 4-6, and I don't mean the defense. And nobody knew what he said except for me. I knew what he meant. He was talking about in reference to Buddy Ryan's 4-6 defense. He goes, it's the OG 4-6, and I don't mean the defense. And I said, Snoop Dogg's excited to see my dad? My dad must be pretty cool. And I remember that, and it stuck with me, and it stuck with our family. Snoop Dogg was excited to meet my dad, and that was a neat thing. He took a picture with the family, and that's forever stuck with us.
That's the OG 46, and I don't mean defense.
And I don't mean the defense.
I love it. Congratulations to you, to your wife, to your family. That's wonderful. Thank you. And your mom.